The most popular video that I've ever made, the most watched, was an early video of mine where I briefly talked about Tacitus's work, Germania. I don't understand why this video was so popular. If I had known, which it's only got about 4,000 views, which of course is nothing in the grand scheme of things. But if I had known it would have been so popular, I would have took a much deeper look at it. Because I believe the work of Tacitus is very important, and it's very worthwhile for us racial dissidents, or you could say white nationalists, to read this important work. I had first read Germania many years ago, back when I was in high school. I think I was 16 or 17. And back then I was extremely interested in ancient history, and I remember enjoying it back then, but it didn't have the same effect back then as it does on me today, knowing what I know now. So, a few weeks ago, a good friend of the channel, he owns a publishing house, and I ordered this book from his website. It is Germania and the Agricola together. The publishing house he owns is called DVX Publishing Company, and I've ordered several other books as well. You know, he's trying to start a family, and you know, you have to order them unfortunately through Amazon, but I'll put a link to it in the box below. But it's well worth it. It's only $10. I think it was $12 or $13 after shipping and handling. I got it within 2 days of me placing my order. So, you know, if you want to help him out, help a good guy out, check out his publishing house. But Germania, as you can see here, it's got the picture of the statue of the Swabian warrior. He has the telltale Swabian knot in his hair. It's very interesting. Like I said, I hadn't read it in many years. And the video that I'd made that was the most watched, I feel like I didn't do it any sort of justice. So what this video is just me attempting to take a deeper look at Germania, to give a better explanation, some thoughts I have on it, and I'm also going to read a few excerpts. I'm not going to read the entire work, of course. I'm just going to read a few interesting excerpts from the book itself. So yeah, I would recommend, if you want a physical copy, this is the guy, this is his publishing house, this is the guy to check out. You know, I understand there's PDFs to it, but over the last year or year and a half, I've been trying to acquire as many physical copies of different books as I possibly can. I'm trying to create a small library for myself. I know there's PDFs and everything, but I did have a PDF of Germania saved on my old laptop, but several months ago it blew up. I lost several things that I had saved on there, and I never bothered to go get it repaired. I'm not going to either, you know, because those repairmen probably go through your shit and look at it, and I'd prefer them not to. Just buy a new laptop. But Germania, I believe, is very important for all of us to study. I believe it should be required reading for any sort of racialist, white racialist, or you could say white nationalist. Anyone that understands and is sympathetic to our plight, to our cause. Germania should be read by all of us. I mean, after all, out of this whole book here, only 26 pages of it is Germania. The rest of it is Tacitus' Agricola or Agricola. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but I think it's Agricola. It's very short. I read it in one sitting. Didn't take me very long. And I think we all should read it. I don't care if you consider yourself having only Italic, Hellenic, Celtic, Slavic or Finnic ancestry, it's still very important for our people to read this. It's important because, I mean, we are all native Europeans after all. You know, I'm interested in a lot of the different heroes from the different subgroups of Europe. You know, I'm interested in Slavic heroes, Finnic heroes. You know, I've got Germanic blood myself, a mixture of Germanic and Celtic. I'm interested in that, of course, but I'm also interested in some of these other European subgroups, their heroes and their stories as well, because it's a part of our greater, I guess what you would call, Aryan identity. It's important to learn these things, I believe. Germania, of course, was called by a Jewish Italian historian whose name was Arnaldo Mamigliano. He referred to Germania as the most dangerous literary work ever produced. Of course, you know, I wonder why, you know. We all know that, of course. That's just a rhetorical question. But like I said, it is worth studying, you know, to gain a sense of pride in our European ancestors and our broader, what you could call Indo-European or Aryan identity. Anyways, let's get started. I'll read a few excerpts, give you a few thoughts, and I'll try to do Germania justice this time around. His full name was Caius Cornelius Tacitus. The date of his birth can only be arrived at by conjecture. The younger Pliny speaks of him as a prope modum equals, about the same age. Pliny, the younger Pliny, of course, was born in the year 61. Tacitus, however, occupied the office of quaestor under Vespasian in 78 AD, which would make it most likely that, at least at this time, Tacitus would have been about the age of 25. So he would have been born, by estimate, somewhere around the year 50 to 55 AD. His parentage is not known. Cornelius was a very common name in Rome at the time. The events of his life there's little known about them. He occupied a position of some eminence as a pleader at the Roman bar in the year 77 AD, before he became a quaestor. He married the daughter of Julius Agricola, a humane and honorable citizen, who was at that time consul and was subsequently appointed governor of Britain. It is quite possible that this very advantageous alliance hastened the promotion of Tacitus to the office of quaestor under Vespasian. Under Domitian, in the year 88, Tacitus was appointed one of 15 commissioners to preside at the celebration of the secular games. In the same year, he held the office of praetor and was a member of one of the most select of the old priestly colleges, in which a prerequisite of membership was that a man should be born of a good family. The following year, in the year 89, he appears to have left Rome, and it is possible that he visited Germany and there obtained his knowledge and information respecting the manners and customs of its people. He makes the subject of his work known as the Germany. He did not return to Rome until the year 93, after an absence of 4 years, during which time his father-in-law, Julius Agricola, died. Now, this is where it differs. If you read the Wikipedia page regarding Tacitus's work, Germania, Wikipedia tends to have a very dismissive tone in some ways regarding his work. I do recall reading in the article saying that they claim Tacitus never visited Germania. Yet right here we see that he disappeared, you could say, from Rome. He went on his travels for 4 years. I think it's safe to say that he most likely did visit Germania, considering the amount of detail and work that he had put into this important historical document. Tacitus, his work was very concise, you could say. He had a his brevity was proverbial. So now what I'm going to do is read a few chapters from Germania for you. I'm not going to read the entire work, of course. I believe that is, if you are inclined to do so, that is up to you. And I think you should, like I mentioned earlier. But the first chapter, he just talks about the area of Germania. I'll start at the second chapter, though, read a couple of excerpts. The people of Germany appear to me as indigenous and free from intermixture with foreigners, either as settlers or casual visitants. A peculiar kind of verse is also occurrent among them, by recital of which the term barding, they stimulate their courage, while the sound itself serves an augury of the event of the impending combat. For according to the nature of the cry proceeding from the line, terror is inspired or felt, nor does it seem so much an articulate song as the wild chorus of valor. A harsh piercing note and a broken roar are the favorite tones, which they render more full and sonorous by applying their mouths to their shields. Some conjecture that Ulysses, the hero of the Odyssey, in the course of his long and fabulous wanderings, was driven into this ocean and landed in Germany, and that Askebergium, you'll have to excuse me if I'm butchering the pronunciation of some of these names, a place situated on the Rhine, and at this day inhabited, was founded by him and named Aspergion. They pretend that an altar was formerly discovered here, consecrated by Ulysses, with the name of his father Laertes subjoined, and that certain monuments and tombs, inscribed with Greek characters, are still extant on the confines of Germany and Rhaetia. These allegations I shall neither attempt to confirm nor to refute. Let everyone believe concerning them as he is disposed. I concur in opinion with those who deem the Germans never to have intermarried with other nations, but to be a race pure, unmixed, and stamped with a distinct character. Hence a family likeness pervades the whole, though their numbers are so great. Eyes, stern and blue, ruddy hair, large bodies, powerful in sudden exertions, but impatient of toil and labor, least of all capable by sustaining thirst and heat, cold and hunger, they are accustomed by their climate and soil to endure. He's basically just giving the phenotypical description of the Germans here. One thing he mentions later on, he talks about how they are great at fighting, but they do not care for physical labor in the field. He said they are also prone to drunkenness. I think he is making a very well-rounded description of the Germanic character here. The land, though varied to a considerable extent in its aspect, is yet universally shagged with forests or deformed by marshes, moister on the side of Gaul, bleaker on the side of Norium and Pannonia. It is productive of grain, but unkindly to fruit trees. It abounds in flocks and herds, but in general of a small breed. Even the beeves kind are destitute of their usual stateliness and dignity of head. They are, however, numerous and form the most esteemed and indeed the only species of wealth. This is an important part here, describing their views on wealth. Silver and gold, the gods, I know not whether they in their favor or anger have denied to this country. Not that I would assert that no veins of these metals are generated in Germany, for who have made the search? Possession of them is not coveted by these people as it is by us. Vessels of silver are indeed seen among them, which have been presented to their ambassadors and chiefs, but they are held in no higher estimation than earthenware. The borderers, however, set a value on gold and silver for the purpose of commerce, and have learned to distinguish several kinds of our coin,
some of which they prefer to others. The remoter inhabitants continue the more simple and ancient usage of bartering commodities. The money preferred by the Germans is the old and well-known species, such as the cerati and bagati. They are also pleased with silver more than gold, not on account of any fondness for that metal, but because of the smaller money is more convenient in their common and petty merchandise. Tacitus later writes that iron is not plentiful among the Germans. The nature of their weapons is that they usually carry a spear and shields that are colorfully ornamented. Very few of them have chains of mail to wear as armor. The strength of the German army is largely in their infantry. They are fierce fighters, strong and proud, fearless. I'll skip ahead to chapter 7 here regarding the government of the Germans. In the election of kings, they have regard to birth, in that generals to valor. Their kings have not an absolute or unlimited power, and their generals command less through the force of authority than of example. Oh, that's a very important aspect of how they viewed each other, I believe. They cared less about regarding their generals and commanders. They cared less about their authority, but more about how they led by example. If they are daring, adventurous, and conspicuous in action, they procure obedience from the admiration they inspire. None, however, but the priests are permitted to judge offenders, to inflict bonds or stripes, so that chastisement appears not as an act of military discipline, but as the instigation of the God whom they suppose present with warriors. They also carry with them to battle certain images and standards taken from the sacred groves. It is a principal incentive to their courage that their squadrons and battalions are not formed by men fortuitously collected, but by the assemblage of families and clans, that clannish behavior. Their pledges are also near at hand. They have within hearing the yells of their women and the cries of their children. These too are the most revered witnesses of each man's conduct. These his most liberal applauders. To their mothers and their wives they bring their wounds for relief, nor do these dread to count or search out the gashes. The women also administer food and encouragement to those who are fighting. My friend Hanz Hugren made a very astute observation, I believe, in a previous video he posted a few weeks ago. I'll put a link to his channel in the box below, but he made the observation that a lot of, you see here in modern sports, I have no love for sports ball, but I mean, if in American sports, if you look at, say, a football team, American football, there are a squad of cheerleaders. And I mean, this is from the time children are playing football and I guess what you would call the Pee-wee leagues, on up through junior high, high school, college, even in the pros, the professionals. I think that this, as he pointed out, was this harkens back to this ancient Germanic tradition of having the women and children urging the male warriors forward, encouraging them, and giving them confidence. I believe the act of having cheerleaders that we see today is an example of this. It harkens back to this ancient Germanic tradition. That was a really good observation, I believe, on Mr. Hugren's part. Like I said, I'll put a link to his channel in the box below. Now to talk a little bit about the government of the Germans. On affairs of smaller moment, the chiefs consult. On those of greater importance, the whole community. Yet with this circumstance, that what is referred to the decision of the people is first maturely discussed by the chiefs. They assemble, unless upon some sudden emergency, on stated days, either at the new or full moon. The punishments are varied according to the nature of the crime. Traitors and deserters are hung upon trees, cowards and dastards, and those guilty of unnatural practices are suffocated in mud under a hurdle. This difference of punishment has in view the principle that villainy should be exposed while it is punished, but turpitude concealed. The old phrase, "into the bog you go," this is where it comes from right here. The penalties annexed to slighter offenses are also proportioned to the delinquency. The convicts are fined in horses and cattle, and part of the mulct goes to the king or state, part to the injured person or his relations. In the same assemblies, chiefs are also elected to administer justice through the cantons and districts. 100 companions chosen from the people attended upon each of them to assist them as well as give their advice as their authority. The Germans transact no business, public or private, without being armed. But it is not customary for any person to assume arms till the state has approved his ability to use them effectively. You know, this reminds me of, I believe it was the Arab traveler Ibn Fadlan, in his description of the Varangians, when he was saying that all of the men, the free men amongst the Varangians, they all carried a sword, an axe, and a sayax, or a dagger. You know, this concept of the martial German society, Germanic society, I should say, it persevered through the century. In the field of battle, it is disgraceful for the chief to be surpassed in valor. It is disgraceful for the companions to not equal the chief. But it is reproachful and infamous during a whole succeeding life to retreat from the field surviving him. One of the most important and noteworthy aspects of Germanic culture was the matrimonial bond. I'll read here from chapter 18. The matrimonial bond is, nevertheless, strict and severe among them, nor is there anything in their manners more commendable than this. Almost singly among the barbarians, they content themselves with one wife, a very few of them excepted, who, not through incontinence, but because their alliance is solicited on account of their rank, practice polygamy. The wife does not bring a dowry to her husband, but receives one from him. The parents and relations assemble and pass their approbation to the presents. Presents not adapted to please a female taste or decorate the bride, but oxen, a caparisoned steed, a shield, a spear, a sword. By virtue of these, the wife is espoused, and she in her turn makes a present of some arms to her husband. This they consider as the firmest bond of union, these, the sacred mysteries, the conjugal deities, that the woman may not think herself excused from exertions of fortitude or exempt from the casualties of war. She is admonished by the very ceremonial of her marriage, that she comes to her husband as a partner in toils and dangers, to suffer and to dare equally with him in peace and in war. This is indicated by the yoked oxen, the harnessed steed, the offered arms. Thus she is to live, thus to die. She receives what she is to return inviolate and honored to her children, what her daughters-in-law are to receive, and again transmit to her grandchildren. Another good aspect I will read from chapter 26 here regarding the lending of money. Lending money upon interest or increasing it by usury is unknown amongst them, and this ignorance more effectually prevents the practice than a prohibition would do. The lands are occupied by townships in allotments proportional to the number of cultivators, and are afterwards parceled out among the individuals of the district in shares according to the rank and condition of each person. The wide extent of plain facilitates this partition. The arable lands are annually changed, and a part left fallow, nor do they attempt to make the most of the fertility and plenty of the soil by their own industry in planting orchards, enclosing meadows, and watering gardens. Corn is the only product required from the earth, hence their year is not divided into so many seasons as ours, For while they know and distinguish by name winter, spring, and summer, they are unacquainted equally with the appellation and bounty of autumn.
So I'll stop reading there for now. I don't want this video to be too terribly long, but I think I finally did it better, did it justice. Germania is a very important book. It is a very important historical document, and I would encourage all of you to read it. Get a PDF. If you want a physical copy, check out my friend's publishing house, DVX Classics, DVX Publishing Company. I'll put links to it in the box below. The last chapters of Germania mainly deals with the varying Germanic tribes. One of the interesting ones I do recall is the Aesti. They are who the nation of Estonia is named after. They gathered amber and sold it to the Romans. But I would encourage all of you to read it for yourselves. Like I said, in this book here, it's also it's Germania and the Agricola. It's only 26 pages. There's really no reason not to read it, you know. You can do it in one sitting. And it's important, you know, to revere our ancestors and their way of life. Even though they were considered barbarians, you know, barbarism helped make us who we are. Living in the wild, living free. You know, the ancient Greeks and Romans, they always had a definite admiration for the barbarians, for the barbaric tribes. I mean, even up into the Middle Ages, when Anna Komnenos wrote the Alexiad, she spoke in it of how much she admired the fierceness, the bravery, the courage, and also the loyalty, too, of the barbaric tribes. But anyways, this video's been long enough. I want to thank y'all for watching, and check out Germania. Revere your ancestors. Thank y'all for watching. Bye-bye.